Am I clear now? Okay. When we are talking about LNG Indonesia is part of the world LNG. So of course, when I talk about LNG Indonesia, as most of our LNG does not consume domestically, so I need to review what exactly happened with respect to the world LNG. So this will be my presentation, the content, especially because this is a very high level, because it's something like keynote. So we'll check a little bit about global LNG trend and market, and then we'll go to see how the Indonesia LNG portrait and also the prospect that we have, and then what kind of activities of exploration and exploitation, sorry about this, with exploration that we have, and the major ongoing projects currently to support this one. And then we will check a little bit about oil and gas domestic demand, and then more specifically on gas and LNG utilization and challenge that we have ahead, and then I will conclude. Dear fellows, when we see about global supply and demand LNG, we can see, and it's very clear, and I quote this from IEA in August 2020, where it shows, this graph shows clearly that LNG global expected to rise, while an Asia-Pacific region imports to increase. And when you see here, so this is Africa, Asia-Pacific, you see the color here, Central, South Eurasia, Europe, and then see here, Russia, Mozambique, Nigeria to increase their capacity. And then it has to be watched seriously actually by the traditional market exporter. We will expect in front of us there will be a very tough commercial deal competition. Now, how about the situation now that I think everybody of us, since we are player of LNG here, understands that we will see the new shape of commoditizing LNG will be pushed by the imbalances of supply and demand. What I mean by this is that the LNG producers cannot any longer enjoy the benefit where they can secure the market, a huge market ahead, even before they start to production or to the project itself, even before the FID or sanction of the project. Can we see here? Major new liquefaction projects will increase the amount of flexible supply in the major portfolio, and we will expect the major to target uncontracted LNG, especially in the Pacific area. So if you see here, and then what does it mean? It means, if you see here in the left-hand side, flexible LNG, there's huge here, where it is very flexible in many terms. Destination, volume, term and conditions, price, link, and everything else. And then, in the contracted and contracted LNG demand in Asia will expand quickly. This will be the target market for the seller with the flexible volumes. What is the message of this? It means only if you are strong enough, you can survive. Now, this is also the specific situation that we have now, especially because we are now in COVID-19 pandemic, where everything is scrutinized in terms of supply, demand, transportation, and anything else. So we are in a situation where lower in demand forecast, but if you compare to that of supply, it will bring more pressure to LNG market. You can check here in supply forecast, in 3 years' time, here, 2019, 20, and 21, the total supply will decrease only 4.6, but demand forecast will decrease by 5.5. It means what? It means we have a gap where demand lower than that of the supply. So this is the challenge that we will have in future. So what is the consequences? The consequences will be like this. We will not enjoy any longer, as I mentioned previous before, the era for LNG as a long-term established contract will shift to flexible terms. Now, this is the portrait of our leader. We got this from both McKinsey. It shows here, in the past, even though still indexed to the oil, but you can check here into 011, it sits in 14%, but now it's steadily decreased up to 10.1. And what flexibility they expect? Flexible destination of volume, market-based pricing, there will be a very loose price review, and then supplier reliability, flexible payment, rich gas quality specification, investment partnership, and there will be also emission intensity transparency. That's due to the, now that we have what they got energy transition to a cleaner one. So everybody stakeholders, we need to know this one. Indonesia cannot avoid such situation, and even all the players that we have. Now, let's see what happened with our LNG. This is our LNG Indonesian balance currently. You can check here from 2021 into up to 2035 in 25 years time. So we will see how much that we have uncommitted cargo. We still have many, and we have also some that go to domestics. But for the LNG export will go, but some of them will be replaced maybe by somewhere else. So what does it mean? More customers, new market, and flexibility is really required in order to absorb and commit it to the cargoes that we will have. I believe this will be discussed later on in the second session. Now, the message that we have now, so we need to create and expand our new domestic market. We will not surrender. We are very, very optimistic. We have to have new innovation. So this is the thing that we need to do. We still have here, in the very left-hand side, we have gas and LNG infrastructure over here. And then also we have all facilities with respect to LNG receiving terminal, the existing pipeline, the plant pipeline, LNG plant, and the plant receiving terminal. In order to optimize new market, we need a cleaner energy. So what we do, we are now in the process of replacing some of diesel to gas for power generation in remote off-grid islands. So it will absorb some of the LNG, will be gasified for domestic. And then we will also have LNG for transportation, for vessels, for trains. And LNG also will go for non-traditional one. It will go for non-connected gas transportation pipeline. We will have new commercial enclave residential city. We will try to put LNG there, gas there, to power there. And then it also will create what we call as an opportunity for LNG bunkering and small transportation vessels. So this is an opportunity along the value chains. Now, and then the opportunity to expand the market in Indonesia, I believe, still remains large. So if we see here, the GKM, which is the spot, and see here, I got this one from the Oxford Institute Energy Study, July 2020, where we have the gap here. And now that's what we call, it is about time to explore domestic small, yet many customer base. We have to move to non-traditional consumers. The area of biggest demand upside by sector, if you see here, more will go to the power generation, some to the industry, transportation, residential, commercial, and bunkering. This is based on survey making by McKinsey in 2020, and we also follows and pay attention to this kind of thing so that we can optimize and so that we can do what necessary to do in order to optimize the LNG market that we have. As there are many uncontracted cargoes as in the previous slides. If you see the LNG value chain infrastructure, really holds central role to expand optimization. We are lucky, we have a very wide valley of islands. So it will give us opportunity, but it also comes with challenge. Where we see here what we'll be doing with the upstream pipeline, transmission, we need regasification, plant placement, and also connectivity within, and also inter small islands. So all those things, this is the optimism that we need to build, that we are optimistic, yet have to work hard in order to make our LNG will be absorbed by the market. Now this is the way to support. We have so many projects in oil and gas, and it spread it along with Indonesia, in Java, up to the eastern here, in the mid and in the eastern, and with a huge capital investment expected. And some will already be expected, maybe a little bit off schedule, but we expect will be only slightly a little bit or not there, but we will try to make it on schedule, on target. And optimism has to be maintained. Indonesia, we do have a long-term plan. We start from what we will do with respect to all this thing. We need to maintain our existing production. We need to transport reserve to production. We need also in terms of enhanced oil recovery, and we increase more to exploration as we have now some fund available for that. So those are the things to support the optimism and the challenge that we will have in the future. To conclude, I'd like to say here, ladies and gentlemen, dear fellows, now the global economy growth is hard influenced down by the COVID-19. The energy supply, demand, investment tries to find where we'll go with the new equilibrium. The second thing, the LNG market is currently under hard pressure, adjusting to flexible commercial terms, and find new small, yet many markets. This is the opportunity that we expect. Indonesia remains positive and optimistic, adjusting to this new reality that we face. And LNG infrastructures to expand and increase more domestic utilization, really it holds a central keys to make those optimism works. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the presentation or a keynote, if I may say so, that I need to deliver in this very respected forum for our further discussion, including to the next. Thank you very much. I return to you.
Very much you asked me to moderate this panel. I think we've got about 40 minutes. There's a lot of ground to cover. I did enjoy Pak Sampai's presentation. I thought it summed up the situation very well, looking at the challenges around supply and, of course, on demand. And we're going to cover some of those discussions today. We're going to focus on LNG, but LNG all the way to power. We're going to talk about how you build commercial projects, how you finance them, and we're also going to touch on some of the impacts that have been happening around COVID, amongst some of the other risks that you get when you're putting a project